If you have dark skin and you struggle with getting your makeup to look smooth, seamless and well blended, this tutorial is for you. Today I'm taking you through a complete step-by-step soft glam on a dark skin, from skin preparation all the way to the finishing touches. So let's get into the video. So the first thing is skin preparation. When you are cleansing your face, I always like to start with a clean skin because good makeup really begins with good skin preparation. So make sure the canvas is well cleaned. Then once you are done, then you hydrate the face. I'm using the Kiss Beauty to hydrate the face. Allow that to dry down. Then for the sweat block, I'm using the Mismetic sweat block. I apply that at the part of the face that she normally sweat and produces oil. Sweat blocks help to control the oil and the sweat, so allow it to dry down as well. Then for moisturizer, I'm using my Blossom SS moisturizer. Especially when working on deeper skin tone, I want the skin to look healthy and well prepped before I start applying any complexion products. Next step is primer. Once the skincare has settled, I'm applying my primer, focusing mainly on the area where I need to control texture and help the makeup last longer. Then I'll set the whole face with my Kiss Beauty to make sure the skin prep sits well to the skin. For the foundation, I'm taking my time to build the coverage gradually. I don't want to apply too much product at once. Building the foundation allow me to keep the skin looking natural while still getting the coverage I want. When choosing the right foundation, I always match the face to the body, not the face to the neck. I always make sure the foundation matches the entire body, like the rest of the body. And I use my concealer as my foundation for this client, and it came out very nice. Next, I'm applying blush, and I'm using my Eye Magic lip palette as a blush for today. I picked the red shade, and I'm using my foundation brush to gently apply the blush on the upper part of her face, like directly on her cheekbone. Once I'm done, I went in with my beauty sponge to gently blend it. Guys, blush bring back warmth and dimension into the face. Can you see that change? Moving over to concealer, I'm using my Adventure concealer. I've forgotten the shade, to conceal the face. I'm placing my concealer strategically rather than covering the entire under eye area with too much product. The goal is to brighten, lift and still keep the complexion looking natural. So I applied my concealer under the eyes. Tell your client to look up, so it's easy for you to blend, and make sure your beauty sponge is damp, guys. And also don't be too handed, like you need to blend it softly. So once I'm done concealing the under eye, I applied on her forehead just to brighten the forehead and her chin. So just as the places I need to conceal, those are the places I put the concealer. Guys, blend and make sure there is no harsh line between where you apply the concealer and where the foundation is. So once I'm comfortable and I'm okay blending, to contour the nose, I use a darker foundation. This is just to give the nose a snatch, like a definition, and also to give the nose a lift, like that illusion of pointed nose. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, or I'm explaining it very well. So use your nose contour brush to further make a Y shape, like kind of a Y shape on the nose, and make sure you blend in the lines. The lines should be very faint. So once I'm done, I went back with my beauty sponge as well to further blend in that nose contour and make sure every line is well blended. So after I was done, I went back to the under eye. So you tell your client or your model to look up. Then you gently blend and set the under eyes very well. So I'm using the Jadris Compact Powder and my Annie's Beauty brush to set the under eyes. So I love using a compact powder to set first because it gives me a fuller coverage before I use my setting powder, to set the under eyes and also set the rest of the face. Guys, can you see that seamless under eye effect? Can you see the full coverage it gives? Yes, I always love this when I use my compact powder first before my setting powder. Next off, I'm using my powder palette and my powder brush to further set the rest of the face. So once you are done setting the under eyes and the area you concealed, you have to set the foundation and the concealer and the blush. So I'm using my powder palette to gently blend and set the face. Guys, can you see that coverage? Can you see that powder shade match? Like everything is coming out flawless. So take your time and make sure you set and blend in, so there will be no harsh lines, guys. So once I was done setting the rest of the face, I'm using a darker powder to contour the nose, like kind of a dry contour. You know, in makeup, whatever you do during the wet or the foundation and all that, you also apply that with the dry product. So I'm using a darker powder to blend and contour the nose as well, and I'm using a precise fluffy brush to do this nose contour. Guys, please make sure that you blend and fade in your lines. Let the nose not be too harsh. So once I was done, I used my Kiss Beauty to set the rest of the face. Guys, can you see the finished work? Look at the skin work. Moving on to the eyes, I'm starting with my transition shade and I'm gradually building the intensity. So I'm using my Cara gel liner. I pick up the dark shade, so I'm applying that on our eyelid and I'm gently transiting that into our crease line. So I'm using my Annie's Beauty. I picked up the brown shade there and I'm using that as a first transition. Guys, always blend in your eyeshadow. Make sure they marry together. So I'm blending each shade properly before adding the next one because I want the colors to melt into each other rather than standing harshly on their own. Guys, so make sure you blend. So for the pigments, I'm using the MK pigment and I'm using the pigment glue. Guys, can you see the eye base? Can you see that dark on the eyelid? So I will gently use my hand to blend in the pigment. Make sure you blend in properly and don't pack too much. So I'm using that green pigment as a main eye color for today. Guys, please ignore any noise you hear on the background, please. So I'm gently using my finger to tap in the pigment and blend it on the eyelid. Make sure it sits so well so that it won't transfer. Guys, can you see? So take your time and dust off every excess on the skin. So once I'm done dusting them off, I also went back and add a little pigment at the inner corners like a tear dot because I want to use another pigment on it. So I picked the silver pigment just to give the eyes more pop. Can you see that's what that just did to the eyes? Like it just elevated the eyes once. Guys, makeup is art, so just be creative. Take your time, do what you know will suit the client face. Let's take a moment and appreciate this skin work, guys. Can you see this skin work? So once I was done, I went back with my Annie's Beauty to further blend in the crease line and make sure I dust off any pigment on the eye crease. Yeah, that's what I'm doing with my brush. Guys, please, if you've watched this video to this moment, please like, subscribe, and leave your comments below, guys. After that, I also went back to deepen the outer part of the eyes, like the eyeshadow, using the dark shade in the Annie's Beauty palette to give it that kind of smoky effect. So for lashes, I'm using the chill lashes. I picked up a fluffy and very short lashes. And I'm using my classic lash glue. I'm applying that directly on our eyelid. Guys, can you see how soft that lash is? I love this lash tray so much. So make sure you tell your clients to look down a bit and we apply lashes directly next to our lash band. Next is the brows. So I'm using my Cara gel liner. I mixed both the brown and the dark shade. So for the brows, I'm keeping the shape soft and defined. I don't want the brows to overpower the rest of the makeup, so I'm concentrating most of the products towards the tail and keeping the front more natural. So I'm using my brush and my gel liner to gently define the brows, following the arc of our brows, guys. So once I'm done, I went back as well with that gel liner and my brush to further blend in, like define and make strokes. So after you've defined the brows, to conceal, I'm using my concealer brush and same shade concealer, 2 shades lighter than our skin tone, just to further correct and clean the brows. Then go back with your fluffy brush and blend in that concealer very well. So moving over to the lashes, I went in to press the lashes very well and make sure my client is comfortable and the lash sits properly. So for the lips, I'm starting with my lip liner to define and shape the lip before I apply the main color. So I went back with my Eye Magic lip palette and I picked that brown shade. I mixed it with the dark shade, my Cara gel liner black shade. So I'm using my angled brush, flat angle brush, to define the lips, guys. So once you are done defining the lips, make sure you blend in the lips, like define the upper part and the down part, then blend in the lips, blend in the brown, let the brown fade into the lid, into the main color very well. So after I was done defining the lip, next step, I picked a very dark nude shape from my Eye Magic lip palette as well. So I further blend that with a fluffy brush just to make sure that the both color marries very well before I picked the nude shade from that same Eye Magic lip palette, guys. So you blend and make sure the lip is well blended. There's no demarcation between the brown and the main lid color. So once I'm satisfied with the lip I'm going for, I went back with that same brush I used to define the lip because I want the brown color to pop out. So for the finishing touch, I went back to check the entire face, blending out any areas that need a little more attention, adding my finishing touches and make sure seamless. So I also applied my blush again just to re-emphasize the blush, then use my mascara to further blend in and mascara the bottom lashes. So once I was done, to seal the face, I'm using the FBA locking spray to further seal the whole face, just to make sure that the makeup lasts all day. This spray is so good, guys. And guys, this is the finished look. I really love how soft, clean and radiant this came out on a dark skin. If you enjoy watching this detailed step-by-step tutorial, don't forget to like, to subscribe and leave me a comment telling me what part of the process you'd like me to break down next, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, love you.